and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and I have a special guest with me in the studio today. Hello, Sharon.
Hello, how are you?
Now this is Sharon Williams.
Yes.
And you are our office manager here.
Yes.
But that's not why you're on the show today.
No, because that would not be very exciting.
That's very true. But we are talking about a country that's become very dear to you today.
Yes, it has.
And what country is that?
That's Bangladesh.
Okay, Bangladesh. And why is Bangladesh dear to your heart?
Because I went there and met people and made friends and got to see the need and the people who are doing some of the work and want to get involved with it.
Okay. So how did you end up going to Bangladesh?
It is a circuitous story. We have a colleague, Tim Saxton, who is the new director, Asia director for AWR. And he went to Bangladesh to check out, as part of his territory, he was going to all the different countries under his purview. And he saw a lot of need that didn't necessarily fit under AWR's marching orders. So he thought of Jesus for Asia and said this would be perfect for them. So he met with John and said, hey, would you like to get involved? And John said yes. And he said, great, come to Bangladesh in December when I go back and I'll show you around and introduce you to people. But due to John's schedule, the travel schedule of needing to be in Thailand and in various places, he could not go. So instead of letting the opportunity pass, I volunteered and volunteered Hannah at the same time, saying that we would go in his place. And he agreed, and that's how we got there.
So tell us a little bit about Bangladesh.
Bangladesh is a small country. It is in the northeast of India, and it is surrounded by India, and it also has a border with Myanmar. It is a newish country. It gained its independence in 1971. And they are very happy to be Bangladeshi. They're very proud of their country. So it's more of a hopeful country. It is mostly Muslim, 89% Muslim, with about 10% Hindu. And then the last 1% is lumped together as Christian and Buddhist. So very few Christians in this country.
Okay.
The Adventist Church there divided Bangladesh into 4 missions. There's the north, south, east, and west. And Hannah and I went to all 4 quadrants of the country. So we spent a lot of time in vans and we flew a lot going back and forth. It's about an hour out of Dhaka to everywhere in the country.
Okay.
So it's not large. It's about the size of Iowa, but it has 167 million people in it. And Dhaka is the 6th most densely populated city in the world. And
wow.
We have a video here of Hannah standing on a street corner just watching the traffic go by so that you can see just how close the traffic comes to the people.
Okay.
And they all kind of, you've been in India, you know what that is like, and they drive the same way there.
Okay.
So while we were in Bangladesh, we mostly stayed at the Union Mission, the Bangladesh Union Mission office. Okay. And we went up to the top of the building where we were staying and took a video, a panoramic video of the city, which is showing at the moment. And all you can see is city. As far as you go is just city.
Wow.
It's very huge. They build up.
Yeah, lots of tall buildings.
Yeah, they don't have the ability to go out, and they were doing laundry on top of our building. That's what they do. Is you'll see they don't have dryers, so they just hang their laundry everywhere that they can go. Yeah. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Bangladesh Union Mission leadership because they took very good care of us while we were there, and they brought us food and gave us a place to stay, and then Dr. Lytton Halder was the person that we connected with, and he took us everywhere. And he was so kind and so nice to help us that we would not have been able to accomplish what we needed to do if it wasn't for the leadership there who who stepped in and made sure we were okay. So I just want to say, hey.
Yeah, you connected really well with all the different missions.
Yes.
Under the Union mission as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
And so we just really appreciate the church leadership there.
Yes.
And they seem to, we've met a few of them on Zoom calls
Yes.
since then, and they all have expressed a desire for more people in their areas to know God.
Yes.
And that's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And,
The difficulty in doing evangelism in the country is that it's a Muslim majority country, and the evangelism is not allowed. So if you want to have meetings in a building that you have, that's great, but you're not going to go into a village, pop up a tent, do meetings and bring people in. They will not allow that. And so it's challenging. The leaders in Bangladesh have a challenge to be able to spread the gospel and do it in a way that will allow them to continue to do it without having the government come in and shut them down. And so they pray a lot and they do what they can as best as they can, and we're thankful to be able to come alongside them and give them support.
right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And speaking of Muslims, we
Yes.
have a picture here.
Yes, you will see a lot of the women who are wearing the full outfit, and they are not as prominent as the men. When you're traveling around, you'll see men everywhere, but not the women. They tend to be in the background, and reaching the women is probably the hardest thing to do because you actually have to find them and share the gospel with them.
Right. They're at home.
They're at home.
Behind the scenes.
Right, exactly. The men are the ones who normally do the shopping, and the women are home with the children, and they're a population that's even harder to reach than the men, simply because they're not visible. So we have to go and look for them. Yeah.
That's a challenge too.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very much a challenge. However, one thing that the government wants are schools. They care about their children, and they want their children to raise up in life. And we learned that even though the statistics say that the country is about 70% literate, that means that 70% of the population can write their name. And that's their level of literacy. And so the schools are helping the children grow and surpass their parents, and so that they can get jobs and grow the economy. And so schools are welcome even if open evangelism is not. So that's something that we can do.
Okay. So speaking of schools,
Speaking
we're
of
going to
schools.
start out. We've got a couple different ones we're
Yes.
going to talk about,
Yes.
several different ones we're
Yes.
going to talk about. And so the first one,
Okay, the first one is in the Cox's Bazar area. We were able to go to one of the Rohingya camps, and that requires special permission in order to go in. So the group we were with did all the application and got the approval so that we could go. And what you're seeing is a picture of the camp that we were in. And you'll notice that it's not high rises, it's not luxury,
it's not buildings.
it's not, it's shacks.
Yeah.
It's shacks.
They're made from bamboo, it looks
Yes.
like, and
Yes.
tin and
Right.
grass.
Yes. And the folks who are in the camp are not allowed to leave the camp, nor are they allowed to go back to Myanmar. So they're in this place, and it's a sad thing to know that when you wake up in the morning, that's where you're going to be all day, and then tomorrow all day, and then the next day all day. And before we got to the Rohingya camp, we were able to meet with one of the local chairmen. They divide their local governments up into chairman of an area, something like we might consider a mayor or a city councilman, district leader,
governor,
something like
something.
that. Yes. And he was over a large portion of one of the Rohingya camps, about 800,000 Rohingya, and then around 30,000 of the Bangladeshi that live outside the camp. And when we met with him, he asked us if we would bring a school into his area. He was very concerned about the Bangladeshi outside the camp walls. Because, well, if you think about a neighborhood, and then a group of refugees come in, and your neighborhood land is divided, and the refugees get the land, and then non-governmental organizations from around the globe come in and work with these people because they're refugees. People tend to forget that there were Bangladeshi living every day in that neighborhood before the camp even started. And so the chairman asked us if we would come and build a school for his people who he felt were forgotten. And we said to him, we'd be happy to do that, but we're Christians. And he said, I know. And we're like, it will be a Christian school. He said, I know, and that's fine. I just want our children to have the benefit of an education. And we said, what size school do you want? He said, anywhere from elementary through college. Come, bring a school.
Wow.
And then
what an opportunity.
I know. And then we had the idea for a community radio station that could be connected with the school, that could broadcast programming over the camp walls. We can't go into the camp, but maybe they could hear about Jesus in another way. So it's a very exciting prospect, and we've been invited to come. So we're working with the local mission to see if that's possible to be able to do.
Right. Wow.
That's,
Okay.
that's one.
One opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the next one.
Number two. Number two is in a Hindu village that's north of Cox's Bazar. And we were introduced to this village by a local man who has a heart for mission and sharing the gospel, and we'll call him Samson.
Okay.
And he connected with AWR and said, would you please come and help me establish a mission in this village? He was all by himself, and he couldn't do it alone. So while we were there, we had the opportunity to go visit this Hindu village. And we walked into, it was a rabbit warren of little lanes, and we were able to talk to the village elders. So we were in the center of the village. All the children came out, all the women came out, everybody came out, and we had a conversation with the village elders, and the question was asked, what is your greatest need here? And their greatest need was a school for their children. Not money, not food, but school for the children. They said, we have a space, please bring in teachers. And so the picture that's on the screen right now is the conversation with the village elders, where they're explaining how they want the school for their children.
Okay, now again, it's a Hindu village.
It's a Hindu village, yes.
And we're not Hindu.
We're not Hindu, and we told them that.
What was their response?
Their response was, we know you're Christian, we know it will be a Christian school, please come.
Wow.
So
they just want education for their children.
They just want education for their children.
Yeah.
And
it makes such a difference.
No, it does. And there are a lot of children in this village, and it will be an exciting prospect. We have connected with the local mission, who's already identified a family to go in, and we haven't gotten the details. We just have been told we know, and that's it. So this one, it hopefully will be started soon, and we can start small and then just keep
one or
growing.
two grades maybe, and just keep growing.
Yeah, but they were very happy. They were so honored that foreigners came to their village. So many of them had never seen a foreigner before.
Did any babies cry? I know that's happened to us sometimes in India. The babies start crying when they see the white person.
But you know, we have a number, Hannah and I have a number of photos where the baby's eyes are like this brown saucers, because they're like, I don't know you. But they didn't cry.
That's good.
Yeah, they didn't run. They were excited that people were there, and they were honored that we had honored them by coming to their village. And Samson had been doing work there, visiting, getting to know the elders, establishing the relationship. So he was able to introduce us as his friends and as friends of the village. And they welcomed us with open arms. So that's
really nice.
Opportunity too.
Okay.
Now we have a third opportunity for
Okay.
a school of a different kind.
Okay.
In the south of Dhaka, there is a town called Rajbari.
Okay.
And in this town is a very large brothel village. And there are around 1,300 women who work in that village along with their children. They have kids, and then the kids just kind of hang around. There's not a lot that people want to do for the kids, not a lot that people want to do for the women. They're in an occupation,
Yeah.
you know, that people,
Distasteful
yeah,
occupation.
and people and the majority of polite society would like to ignore the fact that they're there.
Right.
However,
And it's a never-ending cycle.
It
You know, the
is.
girls who grow up in there
Yes.
usually end up
Yes.
trapped in the same lifestyle.
right, and the boys
Yeah.
see how the women are treated, and that's what they learn. And so the cycle
it
keeps
just-
repeating and
Yeah,
repeating.
That's really sad.
Yes. So we were introduced to a man that we'll call Paul, who has a lot of experience in working with NGOs and doing development projects. And he, in his work, had gotten to know the Muslim Relief Agency that is prevalent in the Rajbari area, and is the one who
Okay.
coordinates all the relief work in that area.
Okay.
And so he introduced us to the chairman of that group, and we had a lovely time together. And he said to us, we have this space that has industrial sewing machines that no one is using. And if you want to take this on, we will let you into this space, and you can run a sewing school for the
Interesting.
ladies in the brothel village as a way for them to learn something, to be able to put food on the table, learn a different skill. And you know that Bangladesh is one of the world's leading exporters of clothing. If you go to stores and you check the label, a lot of them will say made in Bangladesh. So anyone who goes through this school should be able to get a job with
In the garment industry.
in the garment industry, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So in India, we have our schools, and those are treadle machines so that the women can set up a shop. These
Right.
are industrial sewing machines. So we have a short video here that Hannah took, and it just pans through the room to show the kind of machines that they have.
Okay.
And these machines require electricity, and it requires constant electricity, because if the electricity goes out, then the class kind of stops.
Right.
And so there's 10 in this room, and we could do 2 cohorts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and train around 20 women during the course of a study.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And the photo that's up now is interesting because they don't sew with patterns the way we do here in the United States.
No.
They put the pattern up on the wall.
That's the first time I've ever seen a pattern, actually, in all of my times going to India. I haven't ever seen them put them up on the wall. Must be
Right.
because it's a school.
Right. And
Because they don't, this blouse was
This.
sewn without
I know.
a pattern.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing that
They
can
take your
do it.
measurements
Yep.
and then
They
they
make
can
it.
stitch it without,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. But this is only one pattern. The
Right.
room has patterns all around, and that's what they use to make the clothing with. So we are exploring options with Paul to get a budget and to figure out how we can move forward. But we were requested again to come in to teach the ladies. And while we won't be able to overtly share the gospel, we know from our time in India with the sewing schools that there are ways that the teacher can share about Jesus during the classes. So
Right. Well, in India, in our sewing school, at first, the first one, the lady, the teacher, was not an Adventist. She was a Hindu herself.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
right.
she was witnessed to by the people she was working with, the Christians that she was
Right.
working with
Right.
to run the school.
Right.
And so that was really a powerful testimony. I mean, her her daughter wasn't getting pregnant, and she asked the Christians to pray, and they did, and her daughter got pregnant, and
That's
she's
so
like,
cool.
"This is because of your God."
Right.
You know, and so it's a neat testimony.
Right.
No matter, you know, what the circumstance, it can be a neat testimony to each person involved.
It can be, and my heart breaks for the women who are in this situation, who are trapped. Many of them are trafficked there when they're young, and that's where they grow up, and they aren't going to get married. They are not going to be allowed to get a job without additional training, and they don't know how to do that.
Right.
So this will be able to hopefully connect women to Jesus, most importantly, but also give them a skill so they can leave and not have to participate in the activities of the village in order to put food on the table.
Right. Yeah, that's such a blessing.
Yeah.
I know that was the case. In India, our school was particularly for widows
Yes.
that were also trapped into that same lifestyle because they
yes.
had no other way to make a living. And it was such a blessing for them
Right.
to have skills that they could, you know, set up their own shop or
Right.
get a job working for someone else.
Right.
It can be such a blessing.
Right, yeah, it can be. And it gives them hope, and when
Yeah.
they have hope, then their children have hope, and
Right.
it starts a cycle of hope as opposed to a cycle of darkness. And
Which is what they have now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this because I really enjoy the sewing schools in India. And this was really a blessing that they offered. Please come.
And they have the machines, which
Yes.
is amazing. I
Yes.
think we have to get them serviced or
Yeah.
something because they've been sitting for a while.
They have,
but
yeah,
yeah.
they have.
But anyway, so there's some costs associated with getting that set up and running
Right.
before we even can start
Right,
having
yeah,
classes.
absolutely,
But
right.
yeah, it's such a blessing though that they have, you know, have a place and they have machines that just need service.
Right, and so we're praying for teachers
Right.
that God would like to place there so that the women or the teacher can be connected with the women. I was assuming it was a woman teacher, but it doesn't have to be
That's true.
because Bangladesh has the industry, and so both men and women sew. It's not a gender specific activity
Yeah.
in Bangladesh. And so the schools are one of the ways that we can spread the gospel. And in a companion show to this, Hannah's going to be talking about Bible workers and medical missionary workers. So we're trying to cover as many areas in Bangladesh as we
Right.
as we
I know
can.
you were there for 5 weeks, and so
5
you
weeks.
saw a lot.
We did. We saw a lot, and we could go on, but
Right.
we don't have time in this episode. But Hannah will pick up some of that and share some of what we saw in her episode. Yeah.
Okay. So, having been to Bangladesh and you've been to India since you came to work here,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering, you used to work in the corporate world,
Yes, I did.
in very much like it was business, it was for profit, it was for a paycheck, and
Yes.
all of that. You came to work with Jesus for Asia. Can you share a little bit of why, just really briefly? I know you've got quite a story. I think
Yes.
we've shared it on another show.
Yes,
but,
I think so, yeah.
But just briefly, why you came to work with Jesus for Asia and what you see now in your life differently.
Yes. So I had wanted to be in missions for quite a while, and I would periodically look at the offerings, like at Adventist Volunteer Services or AFM or wherever they would list
the mission
calls. That's what
possibilities.
I would look. But nobody ever wanted a secretary, administrative, project manager person. So I pretty much gave up the idea that missions would be something that I would be able to do, but the burden kept going. And where I worked, it was an okay place to work. It was trying to change lives for the positive, but it wasn't a spiritual reason. It was more of a social and health way of helping people.
More of the humanitarian side.
Yes. And so when the opportunity presented itself finally to come, I
Lots
said,
of history there.
there's a lot of history in this story. I came, and it was reduction in pay. It was leaving everything that I knew. It was downsizing to a smaller place to live. And yet,
And you lost your commute. I mean,
I
that was
did.
the biggest thing.
I lost my hour-and-a-half commute twice a
Each
day.
way. Yeah.
But yeah, I was happy to do that.
I know.
That's crazy. No
just
one
one
should
of those
drive
different
3
things.
hours a day just to go to work. But anyway, but being here, I haven't lacked anything. I have had the opportunity to connect with missionaries around the world, see God do amazing things on a daily basis. And our trip even to Bangladesh, we had so many evidences of God stepping in and helping or protecting or any other thing that he would do. We could see it. It's real. And that was something that I didn't have in my corporate area of work, where you would go to work and you would do your emails and you would do your projects and then you go home.
Yeah.
But here, seeing
There was tasks and duties.
yes, yeah. But here it's like, what will God do today?
Yeah.
Is pretty much how you come in.
Yeah.
You just don't know. He is amazing. He cares about his people, the very people that I was wondering who was going to go and tell them about the gospel. He knows them and he cares about them. And I believe that he is working out a way for them to hear.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of God he is.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's what his word says.
Yeah.
Every
It's true.
nation.
Every nation, kindred,
Kindred,
tribe, tongue, and people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole different mindset. You work in an environment where a need comes up and everyone stops and prays.
Mm-hmm.
We lift each other up in prayer. We support our missionaries in prayer. That did not happen in the corporate world. So
Yeah.
it's a big shift, but
Big.
it's a good one. So yeah, no regrets.
All right. Well, praise the Lord. Thank you so much,
You're
Sharon, for
welcome.
coming and sharing with
Sure.
us your burdens for the people of
Yes,
Bangladesh
thank
today.
you.
And I would like to invite you to help with the projects in Bangladesh. First of all, by prayer, because these are opportunities we're sharing with you today. We have not been able to start them yet. There's need for connections. There's need for God to open the way. Some of the places we have locations, some of them we don't. So there's a lot of details to be worked out besides the funding that is needed. So if you would like to help, you can contact us at Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee, 37315. Call us at 423-413-7321 or visit our website at jesusforasia.org. May God richly bless you until we see you next time on Jesus for Asia Now.